Today we talk about the issue that's been making headlines here for weeks, addressing overheated private education market. Discussions have been heating up over how the college entrance exam is driving demand for private education. For more on this issue, we have our reporter Song Yoo-jin joining us in the studio. Evening, Yoo-jin.
Good evening, Jungmin.
First of all, how did this discussion begin?
Well, Jungmin, I think we first have to talk about Korea's college entrance exam, often known as Suneung here in South Korea. And this test, it pretty much determines what kind of university the test takers will enter next year. So it's kind of become one of the most important and pivotal days and events for students here in South Korea. And this test is held every November, but it's preceded by 2 mock tests in June and September. But there have been quite a lot of talks on certain test questions, difficult and complex ones, that are often referred to as killer questions here in the country that go beyond the scope of the school curriculum. And President Yoon Suk-yeol himself has expressed concerns about them and how they contribute to the continuous demand for private education from earlier this year. Then after this year's June mock test, which took place on June 1st, proved to be quite difficult, President Yoon urged the education minister to get rid of these so-called killer questions in future Suneung exams and mock tests as well.
So the president and the government see challenging Suneung questions as will lead to an increase in private education. So can you explain why this happens and tell us more about spending on private education?
Well, that's because cram schools, which are called hagwons here in Korea, they really specialize in teaching students how to really solve these killer questions quickly and also accurately. And this can be seen by a survey conducted by the Education Ministry last month, which said that the primary reason, 45% of the parents who were surveyed answered that the reason why they're trying to send their students, their kids, to hagwons is to better and fully prepare them for a college entrance exam for Suneung. And so private education spending in South Korea has been rising consistently. It's become one of the biggest businesses here in Korea, and you can see that from numbers. According to data from Statistics Korea, last year, monthly spending per student on private education reached 410,000 Korean won, which is around $314, marking the highest level since data was first compiled in 2007. But I want to say that this is only the average because hagwons here in Korea often specialize in one subject like English or math. So for example, if one student goes to 3 to 4 hagwons, for example, English, math, or piano, then you can pretty much imagine how much these costs will snowball. And this hagwon and private education spending market here in Korea, it's not a 1 or 2 day thing because in 2012, a report by the OECD's Program for International Student Assessment showed that Korean students spent an average of 3.6 hours per week in private education, which was the longest amongst OECD countries and 6 times the block's average. And Jungmin, I want to say that the main reason why the government is trying to tackle and reduce spending on private education is not only because it widens the education gap as underprivileged students cannot afford it, but it could also worsen the already low birth rate problem here in Korea. And you can see this from another survey as well. It was conducted by the Korean Educational Development Institute last year. It found out that 49% of parents answered private education expenses as one of the most significant burdens when they're trying to raise a child.
So what is being done here?
Well, first of all, yesterday on Monday, the Education Ministry actually rolled out a couple of measures to really curb the private education spending here in country. And first of all, it revealed 22 killer questions that it selected over the last 3 years, Suneung and the mock test from this month, June. And this was to really show how difficult these questions are and to show that these questions will not appear in future mock tests in Suneung as well. But it was not only this because the ministry rolled out a couple of more measures to really curb private education spending. So let's first take a listen at what the education minister had to say.
The reason why we are unveiling these killer questions is to show that we'll remove all such questions from future tests that go beyond the realm of public education. For this, we will establish advisory and screening panels composed of school teachers to oversee the exam questions.
So it's not only this, so for next year, most Suneung test writers will be comprised of school teachers who are currently teaching students, and this is quite a big change from the current roster, as right now, almost more than half of the test writers are actually university professors. To give you the exact number, 55%, and the ministry also promised to crack down on private education institutes, cram schools that really engage in false or exaggerated advertising to really attract more parents and students to enroll in these institutions.
A lot have been announced, so how effective will these measures be?
Well, I talked to a couple of experts in the industry, and they said that these measures that the Education Ministry unveiled yesterday was a meaningful start, but there is definitely room for more. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
Reducing the prominence of private education will be challenging without addressing the highly competitive atmosphere in South Korea, where it's life or death to enter prestigious universities. Although it may be difficult, the government should focus on the long-term goal of establishing universities outside the capital region to eliminate the existing university hierarchy.
Unlike regular in-school tests, the Special Act on the Promotion of Public Education Normalization and Regulation on Pre-Curriculum Education doesn't say the Suneung exam should not include questions that go beyond the school curriculum. There should be legal standards and measures, like amending the law to include the Suneung exam as well.
So I want to say that there's definitely need for more future countermeasures as well.
All right, thank you for your roundup, Yoo-jin.
Thank you.